we are going to discuss about a new topic today called as prepayment. Let's see what we are up to in the prepayment. Prepayment. So prepayment, what does it mean by prepayment? The time when we order the goods, we will pay some money to the vendor. That's what we call as prepayment or advance payment sometimes. So prepayments are generally of two types. One is payment journal, prepayment journal. Okay, we call it as prepayment journal, or we can also call it as advance payment. There is also another concept called as prepayment invoice. So we'll discuss both of them separately now. We'll see what is a prepayment journal. Prepayment journal is nothing but a payment journal which you are making in advance. Suppose if I go to accounts payable, go to payment journal. If at all I post a payment journal normally for pay some money to the vendor, what will be the entry, guys? Accounting entry. Accounts payable will be debited instead of vendor account, and bank account will be credited if you are paying your money through bank account, correct? So, but when we make some prepayments to the vendors, normally the accounts payable account will not be debited. Instead, the prepayment expenses account will be debited. It's because of the accounting rules that should not realize it as a payment of liability until and unless the obligation is met behind it. So we have created a prepayment posting profile already for the purpose of prepayments. So let's say suppose I'm going to make a prepayment on 1st of November, let's say, not in December, in the 1st of November. Suppose we are in the month of November now, and I'm going to make a prepayment for already for the orders that has to be fulfilled by any of the vendor. I'm making some advance payment. Let's say suppose I'm making this advance payment to this vendor, Tata company, and I'm paying him 1200. And I'll select the offset account, can be a bank account or cash account. Since I have ledger here, I'll select bank account, and I'll select which bank. Select bank number ICICI. Select method of payment as something else. I'll remove the method of payment. Electronic method of payment. Let's see. This one. Payment status, I'll keep it as sent. Okay. So suppose that if I'm going to post it now, I'll get the entry of accounts payable getting debited and bank account getting credited. But we still have a chance to change the posting profile before we post this journal. Let's see here. If I go to not general, I think it should be in prepayment. Here, if I go to payment, this option, I have this option called as prepayment journal voucher. If at all I enable this, see earlier to that, I have a posting profile as general here. In the general posting profile, the main account that is linked to the summary account is accounts payable account. So that is where we'll get the voucher as accounts payable debited and bank account being credited. In that case, if at all I change the posting profile, I mean, if I enable this option, prepayment journal voucher, automatically the posting profile will change to prepayment here. So this is the second posting profile that we have created and linked in the accounts payable parameters for prepayment. So it will be picked here automatically. Now, if I post this transaction, instead of accounts payable account, I'll get that prepayment expenses account, which we have given in the this one in the summary account under the prepayment posting profile. We have given this account, asset account, prepayments to vendors. So that will be considered as an asset because we're making an advance payment. So that is our money only. If at all we need it back, we can anyways take it back from the vendors. So that is why we call it as a prepayment and record it as an asset until unless it is cleared. So now see, if at all I enable this option, then only I'll get the prepayment posting profile. If I disable it, I can see it is as general posting profile once again. So now this is a prepayment voucher, and I can validate this. And then post it. So it is posted now. Let's go for the voucher inquiry. You can see here SBI bank account is credited, and instead of accounts payable account, you can see prepayments to vendor account is being debited. An asset account is being credited and an asset account is being debited. That's how. Instead of accounts payable, you have this account. Now what I'll show you is, in this case, invoice entry would be normal invoice entry is like inventory being debited, suppose, and accounts payable being credited. Now the payment entry is, I mean the prepayment entry, suppose. Prepayment entry is prepayment to vendors being debited and bank account is being credited. So this is one and this is one. Okay. So now we somehow have to settle this, right? So we know how to settle invoices to payments. So we have to go to the vendor page and settle both the invoice and payment transaction. So what happens if I settle it? So normally when we settle anything, here also it will be accounts payable, here also it will be accounts payable if it is a normal payment, and both of them will get cancelled, right? But here we have a different account and here we have a different account. How the cancellation works, we'll see now. So I'll just take you back, duplicate the tab, and I'll take you to the all vendors page. So we have made it to Tata company. Okay. So go to accounts payable, all vendors. So this one Tata company, go to vendor and transactions. So here you can see that when I'll go for only open transactions, where I can see a payment transaction of 1200, as you can see here, this one. Okay, and I have a invoice of 1200. Both two invoices I have, as you can see here. I'm gonna settle both the, or else I have one invoice here as 1200. I'll settle this payment of 1200 to this invoice of 1200. So both of them are open now. So not settled yet. So but you can see the posting profile here. This was posted with general posting profile. This is posted with prepayment posting profile. And this is having a balance of positive 1200, which means the advance payment that you have made to the vendor and which you have to receive it back from the vendor. And this is minus 1200, which is the invoice amount that you have to pay to the vendor. So in order to settle this payment to the invoice, what is the process case? So suppose select the invoice, go to settlement, click on settle transactions. Then select the two transactions that you want to settle. Select the 1200 invoice that is here, this one, and then select the payment transaction that is here. It's a prepayment transaction here. The transaction is a prepayment. Mark the transaction for settlement. It is asking you. You can say yes. Then go for post. So now you see both of them disappeared. The 1200 invoice and the 1200 payment, both of them are disappeared. Now they are not in the open transactions anymore. You can see them in the closed transactions here. I mean, when I open all transactions, I can see the payment transaction here. And then the invoice transaction is somewhere. The 1200 invoice transaction is somewhere here. This one we have settled. Right. But where is this one? Looking for the settlement entry. Okay, this in. It is showing 1080. Okay, two of them. So what happened here is that you have settled the payment transaction to the invoice transaction, but you can see there are two settlement vouchers, as you can see here. This one. So this is a settlement transaction or a voucher. I can say I'll just copy the voucher number and show you. This settlement transaction is automatically created here. I'll filter and show you that one. So this one, if I open this, you can see accounts payable for 1080 and 120 and 1080 and 120 prepayments to vendors, total of 1200 actually. So what is this is, so normally it will automatically create a settlement voucher when you settle two transactions which are posted with two different posting profiles. It will create this automatic settlement voucher. Here. So this settlement voucher will be like this. Repayment to vendors will be credited. Payable is debited. Why we have this voucher? We will get this automatic voucher once after settling it, because see, when we settle them, this accounts payable account have to become zero, and prepayment to vendors also should become zero. And the final entry that should remain is inventory debited and bank account credited, an asset being added and an asset being decreased. That should be the final entry that should remain in the books of accounts. Everything has to be cleared out. So since we have made a prepayment and the accounts payable account is not here in the place for debiting, if at all accounts payable account is here, this will get cleared with this one. So here it is getting credited and here it is getting debited. Both of them will be cleared. But since we don't have that, in order to clear both these accounts in the trial balance, so we will have the settlement voucher which is automatically created by the system. So here you have this one and you have this one. So I can say this will be um, so accounts payable account is credited and debited, and here you will have this one as prepayment expense account and this one. So this will be debited and credited. So that's how. In order to clear this too, I'll get a settlement voucher here to make these two accounts to zero. So accounts payable account will be debited here and prepayment account will be created. As you can see here in the voucher, accounts payable account is debited with total of 1200, 1080 plus 120. Prepayment account is created with 1080 and 120, 1200 total. So that's how it will automatically create a settlement voucher. This is called a settlement transaction or a settlement voucher. So this usually happens when you settle two transactions that are posted with two different posting profiles, one with prepayment posting profile, so another with general posting profile. This one invoice is posted with general posting profile, prepayment is posted with prepayment posting profile. So that is why you will get this settlement voucher when you settle them. The other side, you will also get settlement voucher another time when you post two transactions using different financial dimensions. Suppose if you are using same posting profile also, but if you are using different financial dimensions, suppose for here if you use Bangalore dimension, here you use Hyderabad dimension, then you will get again settlement voucher to settle the balances between the financial dimensions as well. You will get the same accounts payable and accounts payable account, but different financial dimensions just to settle them. Try that example. Use the same posting profile, post an invoice with one financial dimension combination and post a payment transaction with a different financial dimension combination. Settle both of them and see what will be the settlement voucher. Okay. You can identify the settlement vouchers generally, link it to the invoice. I'm sorry. Go to transactions again. So generally settlement vouchers come up with a standard voucher number like this. And when you select the invoice and you can see them actually under settlement, you can see the settlement history. It's showing only payment actually. But you can see them when you go to settlement, at least in the undo settlement. Here also I can see only two. So, but they are linked somehow, but there is a confusion here. I can only see 1080. Usually it should be 1200 for the settlement voucher as well. Since in the voucher I can see it's 1200. But outside it is showing as so. It should be a bug, but this is how it is. 1200 and 1200. So this is what happens when you make a prepayment journal. This one, when you make an advance payment or through a prepayment journal, and when you make a settlement, this kind of settlement and voucher will appear into the system just to clear these two accounts, and finally only the inventory account will be remained and bank account will be remained credited, or bank balance will decrease and inventory will increase. That's all. Remaining everything will be cleared. The same way when you make a normal entry rather than a prepayment entry, you will have that accounts payable account only here in the debit. So it will automatically cancel both of them, this one and this one. Then let us talk about this one, prepayment invoice process, which is very important. This prepayment invoice process doesn't work in our legal entity that we have created, since it requires some procurement setups to be done and some procurement high category hierarchy to be configured. So that is why I'll take this into USMF legal entity, and through USMF legal entity I'm going to create a prepayment invoice and show you how it will work. So you can also practice it in the USMF demo legal entity that you have in the system, in which all the configurations are already done. So here I am in the USMF legal entity. I'll go to all purchase orders, accounts payable, and go to all purchase orders here. There are a lot of purchase orders that are created here in this legal entity, USMF. I'm going to create a new purchase order. Go to one of the vendor. Let's me see this Acme Supplies. And you can select a site and warehouse even here. The order type is purchase order and click on OK. So prepayment invoices are generally the advance payments, advance invoices that we create for the purchase order directly. We will link it to the purchase order. For that particular purchase order only, we are going to make an advance payment directly. And how we can do that, we will see now. Suppose I'll select an item here to buy from this particular vendor. And say I'm buying this Surface Pro 128 GB. So I'll say I'm buying it of 10 quantity and of 1000 each. So it's like 10,000 totally. The purchase order sum is 10,000. Then I'll click on save. Then I can, before I'll confirm the order, I can apply a prepayment on this one. Suppose let's say vendor said that he will deliver the goods, but he needs a prepayment of at least 10% that we have to pay. Advance payment of 10% we have to make to the vendor. So he said that. So before receiving the goods only, we have to pay 10% advance. And once the vendor receives 10% advance, he will deliver the goods to us. Okay, let's see how we can apply that prepayment. So you have this option here under purchase only. You have the option called as prepay here. Here you have the option called as prepayment. You can click here on prepayment. Purchase before confirming, or you after confirming also you can do that, no problem. So purchase, prepay and prepayment. Here you can give like 10% prepayment as a description. So you can give a fixed amount like 1000. 10% means 1000 only, right? On 10,000. You can give it as so, or you can select this option of percentage and you can say 10% so that 1000 will remain. Anyway, 1000 will be calculated. You can manually enter a fixed amount or a percentage as you wish. Then it's in US dollar currency. Here you have to select a prepayment category ID, which is what is not available in our legal entity. That is why we came into USMF legal entity for that. So if I scroll it down, I can select one of it. I'll select this one, utilities, prepayment category ID, and then I can save it. So now there is a 10% prepayment saved on this purchase order. We can create a prepayment invoice and post it later. I'll show you how it will work. So that for again, I'll show you here. I can give the prepayment. Now you see this one, you have the option of remove prepayment also, which means you can clear the applied prepayment again. If you want to clear it without posting anything, you can remove prepayment and it will remove the prepayment. Now if you go in, you see this remove prepayment option is no more available because there is no more prepayment available. You have removed it already. Again, if you go to prepayment here, you see it is an empty page. Again, you can give the same 10% prepayment. If you want to change it to 20%, it's up to you. You can change it to 20% prepayment. 20 you can give, so it will be 2000 now. Then you can go to utilities and click on OK. Then save it. So that's how. Now we have an applied prepayment of 20% on this purchase order. I'm going to confirm this purchase order now. So it's confirmed. Once after confirming the purchase order, before receiving the purchase order only, we have to make that prepayment to the vendor. So for that, I'm going to invoice directly here. So in the invoice, I can see this option of prepayment invoice being highlighted. Earlier, it doesn't used to be highlighted. Only when we apply a prepayment on a purchase order, then only this prepayment invoice option will be highlighted. You can see here, you can select this prepayment invoice option. Before receiving the goods only, I'm selecting prepayment invoice option here. So you can give a number to the prepayment invoice. I'll just give it as prepayment 575 generally. And you can see here, it won't show any products or anything. It will just show that prepayment procurement category that you have selected in the prepayment category ID. And it will show you one quantity only. By default, it will show one quantity only, regardless of how much percentage you select. And it will show the total amount that you're gonna prepay do the for prepayment is 2000. So you can see that 2000 amount here. Clear. It will anytime you do it, it will show in the same manner only. It will show you the procurement ID and then the quantity as one and then the unit price as 2000. Means how much ever amount that you are going to make a prepayment. So that will show here as 2000. Now you can by default it will be passed only. No need to click on update my status also. And you can post this invoice. Could have also given an invoice date. That's also okay. But if without you give the invoice date also you can post it, but it will automatically take the posting date as invoice date. Now we see the prepayment invoice is being posted. So the vendor invoicing process is completed as it is saying. You can check it here in the invoices, invoice journals. So this is the prepayment invoice that is posted for 2000, which means now we are liable to pay the vendor 2000. An invoice is created, the payment is still pending. So before that, you can also see the voucher for this invoice here. So you can see accounts payable account is credited and prepaid other expenses account is debited actually. So this prepaid other expenses account is taken from the item group which we have configured. There we have given an account for prepayment. From there it have considered this account. So accounts payable account is created and prepaid other expense account is being debited. Now what happens is we are going to invoice. I mean we are going to pay this particular invoice. So when I go back to the purchase order, I still see this as an open order because we did not receive any goods on this order, right? And neither any normal invoice is posted. Only the prepayment is selected and the prepayment invoice is posted on the purchase order. So I'll just duplicate the tab, or I'll go to, I mean, that's okay. I'll duplicate the tab. I'll go to the vendor payment journal and make a payment to this invoice that we have created for the 2000 amount. So which means that we are going to pay the vendor for that invoice of prepayment. So here I'm going to accounts payable, go to payment journal, create a new payment journal, select the vendor lines, select the vendor to which you're gonna pay, select this Acme Office Supplies vendor and go to settle transactions to select the pending invoice that you're going to pay. Oh, sorry, the open invoice that you're going to pay. There are a lot of invoices. If I scroll down, I can see the last invoice as prepayment 575 here for 2000 amount. I'm selecting this, click on OK. You can see the vendor is being debited with 2000 and bank account is selected automatically. Method of payment, I'll remove it. I'm not going to pay it through. That's okay. SMF, and I'll select another method of payment, something like electronic. Come on. Then I'll validate this. I'm directly settling the invoice from here itself. I mean the prepayment invoice. I'm directly settling it from here itself in the payment journal, and now I can post it. See, posted, all of them are. Now it is posted and the invoice would have been settled already. So since 2000 you have advance payment you have made, vendor will deliver you the goods. You have made 20% advance payment. So now we'll go to the purchase order, refresh this and receive the goods on this purchase order. So I'm going to post the product receipt. So give a number like PRN 575, let's say. And the vendor delivered the goods suppose on 16th. So all the 10 quantities delivering, total of 10,000 amount. And I'll click on OK. So now we have received the goods on this order. The next step would be posting the original invoice for this goods that you have received. So earlier we have posted prepayment invoice that nowhere involves any item or anything. It just involves a prepayment of 2000. So we have posted that invoice and already made a payment to that invoice. Now we are going to post the original invoice on the order. You can see here invoice. Click on generate invoice. This is the original invoice. So you can give this a number. So you can see a notification here. One or more pending invoices have unapplied paid prepayment invoices available to apply. Use the apply prepayment form to apply prepayment values to the selected invoice. So we're going to apply it anyway. I'll just give it as original invoice, original invoice 575 suppose, and invoice date as of something like 20th. Okay, now since you can see here, all the 10 quantity are brought into the invoice line for 10,000. So what it is saying here in the notification is that there is a prepayment on this invoice. There is a prepayment on this purchase order which you can apply to this original invoice. So we have already made a prepayment, right? So that it is showing to apply to this original invoice. If at all we apply the prepayment, it will reduce that amount of prepayment from the original invoice. So how to do that is you have to click here on vendor invoice and go to this option apply prepayment, which you can see in the left hand side. Click on apply prepayment. You can see the number of prepayments that you have made. If you have made multiple, one or two, you can see them here. Since we have made only one, you can see that single prepayment here. Select this one, single prepayment of 2000 that you have made. So this is the invoice number prepayment 575 which you have made earlier, 2000 amount. And you can click on this one, apply prepayment. So upon clicking on apply prepayment, when you scroll down, you can see this option of another line being added to the original invoice of same line of the prepayment invoice with a negative amount of 2000, means reducing the 2000 amount from the original invoice. That's what it is indicating. Earlier you have already paid 2000 on the invoice. Now it is reducing that amount of 2000 and you have to only pay 8000 on the original invoice. That's what it indicates. Now you can update the match status. So it's showing failed. Why it is showing failed? I think there is three-way matching enabled for this. I should remove this, maybe accounts payable parameters. Invoice validation. One second. Okay, fine. There's something went wrong here. So this should be product receipt quantity. Yeah, that's what went wrong. No, that's okay. Again, we have to make a prepayment applied. So just change it that to product receipt quantity since we have product receipt. I haven't noticed it earlier. Now I'll click on apply prepayment. Now you can see this one and you can update match status. It should be passed here. I can now post this one. So what happens is when you are posting a original invoice, you have to apply that prepayment which you have already made to the vendor. So that will eventually reduce the amount on the original invoice from 10,000 to 8,000 only, because it here you can see minus 2,000. Now you can post this one. So that upon posting it, you can see now there are okay. Enough. And so now this order is invoiced, as you can see here. Under invoice, I can see invoice journals. There are two invoices posted for this. One is for 2000, that's a prepayment invoice. Another one is the original invoice for 10,000 amount. However, so this was already settled as we know 2000. So suppose if I go to this one and go to voucher, let's see what is there in the voucher. You will have this voucher. Let's try to export it. Not sure why this tangible fixed asset account is taken here. Okay, this should be the entry of the reversal of prepayment invoice, which we have seen earlier, and accounts payable being credited for 10,000 and accrued purchases received not invoiced. No, office supplies expense account. This should be the original one, and this should be the reversal of the product receipt. So there are some different accounts taken for the product receipt actually, which is wrong though. But I mean the accrued purchases account is here, and this one should be the inventory received account or the cost of material received account. So that is being reversed, and whatever the prepayment invoice entry that you got earlier, accounts payable other being credited and prepayment in other expenses is being debited earlier. Now it is being reversed here, and the one that is marked in green here is the original entry that is left over, accounts payable account being credited and office supplies expense, or this should be the inventory invoiced account. So they gave a different account in the item group, so because of which we are receiving that account here in this place. So that account is being debited here. So now what all we see marked in the yellow and blue are the reversal entries. This is for the reversal entry for the prepayment invoice. This is the reversal entry for the product receipt. This is the leftover entry or the original invoice entry, the one that is marked in the green. So now the next procedure is that you have already posted the original invoice as well. Suppose if you want to pay the original invoice now, so how much you have to pay on the original invoice? Yeah, we have already paid 2000 as a prepayment, so we have to make a payment of on the original invoice of 8000. So suppose if for that I am going to payments and payment journal to make a payment for this. Click on if, go to vendor payment and go to line suppose. You can select the vendor account here, Acme Supplies, and go to settle transactions. You can see the open invoices or open transactions here in the settle transactions page, and where you can see the original invoice number 575, this one that we have created today. Selected this. So there is also a cash discount applicable on this. So what I'll do is I'll just remove the cash discounts just to make it easy for you to understand. And I'll go here. There is no cash discount, and why it is still showing taken. 7,879. It's still showing that. I'll just come back to the page again 1 second. Go to settle transactions. Still showing 7,899. It is showing taken cash discount. Let's say suppose I'm going to pay it in the next year. Something like in February 1st Now go to settle transactions. I'm still showing 7,895. Okay, we have made already prepayment, right, upon which there is already cash discount calculated of 10.5. That's okay. Let's see, let me click on this one and click OK. Now I can see here there is an amount of 7,989 that you have to pay to the vendor. So already we have made some payment, right, earlier, 20% payment on that cash discount is calculated. The remaining one I removed the cash discount. I don't want it. So that and actually we have to pay 8,000. So out of which the 11.05 something is taken upon already as a cash discount since we have made that advance payment, and the remaining amount is showing up here. So consider this to be 8,000 suppose, and this is the amount that we have to make in settlement to the original invoice. So the prepayment amount is being deducted from the payment that you have to make, as well as the cash discount that is applicable or is also being reduced. Now you can make a direct payment to this vendor in the settlement of this invoice. Post it. So I'll just note down the steps here for the process of prepayment invoice. First step is that get a purchase order. Purchase, sorry, actions, prepayment. Add prepayment. So after adding the prepayment, you can confirm the PO. Later, invoice, generate prepayment invoice, post it. The next thing is AP payment journal. Settle the prepayment invoice. The next step would be PO, receive, product receipt, then invoice, generate original invoice, apply prepayment. Post original settle original invoice for reduced amount. So these are the steps. You have to create a purchase order, then go to the prepayment and apply the prepayment, then confirming the purchase order and generate a prepayment invoice for the amount of prepayment that you have applied. You can post the prepayment invoice. After that, you can go to a payment journal. This is a compulsory step case. You have to go to the payment journal and definitely settle the prepayment invoice. Then only you can apply the prepayment to the original invoice. Without settling the prepayment invoice, you cannot apply the prepayment to the original invoice here in this step. Okay. So then on purchase order, you have to receive the goods. Then you post the original invoice. Before you posting the original invoice, apply the prepayment, and then you can settle the original invoice for the reduced amount. So actually, This prepayment will get automatically applied rather than you applying it manually. For that also you have an option actually in the accounts payable parameters. In the accounts payable parameters under ledger and sales tax, here you have this option of prepayment invoice. You see this, you gave a posting profile here as prepayment posting profile for the prepayment invoice process. And you see here prepayment application policy. Notification are automatic. If you select automatic, it will automatically apply the prepayment invoice to the original invoice. If you select notification, earlier it gave notification, right? Prepayment is pending on it. You can apply on the original invoice like that. So it will give such kind of notification. You can select any of them. If you select automatic means it will automatically apply the prepayment without giving you any notification or intimation. If it if you want notification, it will show you notification. You can manually go and select the prepayment option, which you can settle it onto the original invoice. So that's how. So these are the steps. In interview, they might ask you what is the process of prepayment invoicing. You can explain them these steps actually. Um, and do not forget the steps or don't mismatch the steps. I mean, you have to follow this pattern only. Don't go out of this pattern. So that would be all, guys.